Now that we've finished questions 1 through 3, we're ready for questions 4 through 6. And we're going to see some new strategies come into play that we didn't previously see in those first 3 questions. However, we're also going to see some similar techniques we did see, so pay attention to what is new here. Here's your text for question 4, addressing midwives about patient referrals. So pause the video, read the text, choose your answer, and then unpause the video and hear my explanation and work through this together. Okay, assuming you've done that, here is question 4. The email reminds midwives that. So we've seen this word reminds in our previous questions, but just note it's not always used in the same way. Sometimes it's hinting at certain aspects over others. Sometimes it's, differentiating between new and old information. So we do have to be aware that the verb based is a familiar verb we've seen, but it may not be used in that same context. So here are our 3 options. They must put patient welfare above the wish to maintain good working relationships. So when I see an option like that, basically we have this criteria. Patient welfare has to be above good working relationships. That's what we're looking for in the text. Is it actually confirming that? Or no, it's not actually saying one above the other. Option B, we have they can refer a patient to a senior member of staff directly if they feel it is necessary. Okay, so here's an example. Senior member of staff. You've read the text. You'll see that that word senior member of staff is not actually used, but this is where our strategy of using labels or categories to match examples and details come in. So when you're looking at the text, there is a senior member of staff mentioned. Who is it? Well, the obstetric consultant is mentioned. So a big language piece there is being able to see the general label, senior member, and match it to the specific example given. Now, that's not enough to say that is the correct answer, but sometimes that's a clue if you see that sort of language matching. It's a clue to basically zero in on that and see if that's the answer, see if there's other evidence, and then eliminate the other options. So let's look at C. They should speak to the labor ward coordinator if they are unhappy with the actions of the junior staff. Okay, so we have a few other people here, the LWC and the junior staff. So based on what you read, there's a very clear section here, right in the middle, that can either confirm or deny if C is correct. So let's read this. However, the midwife may wish to refer directly if the LWC is not immediately available. So that's one criteria. Or if the midwife feels that the LWC and or junior medical staff have failed to respond appropriately to an emergency. Criteria number 2. So what's tricky here is the referral is being made directly to what was previously mentioned, the obstetric consultant. It's not that they are referring to the LWC if they're unhappy with the junior staff. We see here it's actually saying for both the LWC and or junior medical staff, if they failed to respond appropriately to the emergency, that's when direct referral to the obstetric consultant is appropriate. So we can rule out option C just based on that section alone. But still, we need to sort through options A and B. So let's see, where is it talking about the patient welfare and maintaining good working relationships? So there is a bit of mention here, concern for the welfare of the patient. So if they have concerns. And then a little bit later on, after this section, in such circumstances, and in order to maintain good working relationships, the LWC should be informed. And then we have at the very bottom, any decisions between professionals should be open and honest, and all actions taken should be for the welfare and safety of the patient and her unborn baby. Okay, so here's the question I have for you. Is there anywhere in there that says we are prioritizing one or over the other? So are we prioritizing patient welfare above working relationships? Is there any sort of connecting language there? Answer is no. We're seeing statements about its importance, like the concerns for the welfare of the patient. We're seeing the importance of maintaining good working relationships. We're seeing, again, that the action should be taken for the welfare and safety, but there's no hierarchy given here with the language used. And that's a clue. Look for statements that are just statements separate from each other versus what option A is asking is there a connection, a prioritization, a hierarchy in the information? And there isn't. It's just stating this is important, this should be considered, and whatnot. So that's a big clue. Look for language that disqualifies that prioritization there. So that leaves us with B. They can refer a patient to a senior member of staff directly if they feel it is necessary. So it is the correct answer, but let's go in there and confirm with our positive evidence here. So right at the start, any midwife can refer a patient in their care to an obstetric consultant at any stage of intrapartum care if they have concerns for the welfare of the patient or her unborn baby. So a couple of clues here. One is what we said before. That's a big clue. You have this category with the detail matching the label. But also look here, the second part is the conditional clause, if they feel it is necessary. Notice that that's not exactly what it says in the text, but the same language of the conditional clause. If they have concerns for the welfare of the patient or her unborn baby. In other words, if it's necessary, if it's required. So that's a nice mapping of the first part onto what's given there, but also the second part also directly reflects what is written, paraphrased in a slightly different way. So paraphrasing is something we really want to look out for, not necessarily directly the same language, but similar ideas, similar overall gist of what is being said. So let's go on to number 5 there. Here we have immunization policy, adverse reaction reporting. Same thing, pause that video, give it a read, choose the option that you think is best fitting the question, and then I'll talk us through our explanation here. All right, so as we get started with number 5, when is it unnecessary to report a suspected ADR? I'm going to give you a clue to this. This clue and the key to answering this is look for positive and negative language. So we'll get into the details in a second, but the word unnecessary is going to be very relevant to us as a keyword. So here are our options. A, where the patient's health record reveals a known allergy. Okay. In the case of a non-serious reaction to an established vaccine. If documentation shows the authorities have already been informed. Okay, so let's take a look through our pieces here. Generally, I prefer to start by elimination, but you're welcome to start however you like, whether it's searching for clues to confirm or searching for clues to deny or reject the other options here. Okay, so what do we have here? So it encourages reporting of suspected adverse drug reactions, even if there is uncertainty as to whether the vaccine or drug played a causal role. Okay. So this is where the mind and the language part comes in. So we're looking for when is it unnecessary? So we have to go through all our examples and think, are they saying this is necessary? So for example, the first thing, they want you to report it even if there is uncertainty. So that's good. Now we have the next section. The yellow card scheme should be used for reporting any ADR that is suspected to be linked to an established vaccine should only be reported to the authorities if it is a serious ADR. So of course, the language person in me looks at this and sees, okay, there's a lot of conditional statements. Should only be reported if it is a serious ADR. So immediately my alarm bells go off and say, okay, what is this saying? So you should report it if it is serious. Therefore, when do you not need to report it? It's unnecessary to report it if it is not serious, the opposite. So right away, like this sort of language structure with those conditionals gets me focused in on, is this a criteria that's going to match our answer here? If we look at option B, in the case of a non-serious reaction to an established vaccine, that is exactly what we're looking at here. So in this case, established vaccine, you should only report it if it's serious, therefore don't report it if it's not serious. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So sorry for the repetition there, but it's just sometimes the mind has to figure out the pieces and then see if it qualifies for your answer. So that statement alone is enough to confirm B based on what is said. But let's take a look to eliminate our other options. So for newly licensed vaccines labeled with a black triangle, all suspected adverse reactions should be reported. Okay. Any adverse reaction should also be documented in the patient's health record. So, in terms of allergies and whatnot, there's not a lot of mention in here about that. So for that first one, where the patient's health record reveals a known allergy, I mean, again, there's not a ton in there. And if it was, it would be, okay, all suspected adverse reactions should be reported. So that wouldn't be meeting our criteria of when it's unnecessary. And then in this case, if documentation shows the authorities have already been informed. So there's not really mention of that. We have the yellow card as a method of reporting and documentation, but other than that, like in terms of reporting, if they've already been informed, nothing in there. And again, back to the question, when is it unnecessary? So not only is there not a lot of evidence for C, there's also not anything to meet that criteria. So this is an interesting question because the negative evidence, what's eliminating our options, isn't that strong. There's just not really a lot of mention about those other things. What we see here is B has a very strong statement that almost directly gives us that answer without reading much of the rest of the text there. All right, so let's go to our last one there, number 6. So here we go, discussing treatments with patients. Go ahead and read through that, pause the video, answer your question, and then we will discuss this together. All right, so question 6, the extract, careful pronunciation, extract from a training manual addresses the fact that some patients will. Okay, we always want to be on the lookout for words like some, all, a couple, a few, many, most. Those sort of words can make it very challenging with the language. So the fact that some patients will. What do we have here? Want a limited amount of detail about the recommended treatment. Limited amount of detail. Recommended treatment. Look for information about treatment from sources outside of the hospital. Okay. Ask for assurances about treatment that the medical professional cannot give. Okay, so again, what's our criteria? Not all the patients, but some of the patients are going to do this. So let's go through our text now and see what we have here. So the first part's just kind of an opening. They need information about what will happen, how long they'll be in the hospital, how they'll feel afterwards. Okay, here's something interesting. Patients and those close to them will vary in how much information they want. So right away I see the word vary and I think, some, all, most, many, like, okay, this is interesting. To me, it gives us a clue that this section is probably going to be relevant to answer our question. So from those who wish to know as much as possible. Look at our language here. So from, basically indicating starting on one side, those who want to know as much as possible, including discussion of rare risks. To, on the other side, so language-wise, we're seeing this contrast presented, to those who ask health professionals to make decisions for them. Okay, so if I look at my options here, there's nothing immediately that tells me it's any of them, but look carefully again. So what are some of the patients wanting? Some of the patients are wanting to know as much as possible. The language tells us that there's a contrast here, so therefore the other option is patients who don't want a lot of information, and how that's expressed here, who ask health professionals to make decisions for them. because they themselves don't want the information, they're getting someone to make the decision. So that's a little bit tricky. It's not explicitly stated, but from that, we're seeing that this is very much aligning with what's in option A. Want a limited amount of detail about the recommended treatment. And again, why? Because it's some of the patients, and we see the language of contrast from those who want a lot to those who basically don't in that case. So I'll put a question mark here as a potential. I also want to look for evidence to rule out other options if there is. So what do we have? There will always be an element of clinical judgment in determining what information should be given. However, the presumption must be that patient wishes to be well informed about the risks and benefits of the various options. Okay. All information given should be documented. Sources of patient information include and then they list all of those. So here's my question for you for B. Look for information about treatment from sources outside of the hospital. Where in there does it say that? We have a list of possible sources, but is there anywhere that actually says the patients go and seek that out or look for that, like the active verb of investigating or searching? No. So we have, again, a distraction here. We have the word sources, but there's no indication that it's some of these patients going and doing this. It's just a statement here about what the type of sources are. So be very careful. Just like what we've seen, parts of the option eliminate it as a good option for the answer there. Same thing for C. Ask for assurances about treatment that the medical professional cannot give. Well, we know, going back to our blurb here, it says some will want a lot of information, some will not want a lot. Okay. And then it says here the presumption must be that the patient wishes to be well informed. But is there anywhere that it's saying the patient is asking for this information that the doctor themselves cannot provide? And this criteria, cannot give, when we look at our text, that's not what is reflected or not what is being said. Sure, some patients will want a lot of information, as it says in the first part, but be careful, is it information that actually the healthcare professional cannot give to them? So that's where process of elimination with those criteria and the options can really be complicated, but also help us to be more confident that our answer here is A. Because again, we have a direct statement that also shows us that language, right? The from and the to, huge clue to us because of our language skills being assessed, that we're supposed to recognize that for what it is. So that's questions 4 through 6. Just to repeat or emphasize, what sort of strategies are we seeing? So we're seeing a lot of the time the options, there's aspects of all of them in the text, but there's usually criteria that excludes some of the options over the other. We're seeing a lot of synonymous language, paraphrasing. We're also seeing category and example. So like what we saw, senior consultant, senior, I forget the exact word, obstetric consultant, and the senior person, whoever we called them. We also see, again, these words like remind, concern, warn. Those sort of things should tell us what sort of language clues we're looking for. So that is questions 4 through 6. If you didn't get a chance, go back to questions 1 through 3. Let me know in the comments down below, how did you do on these ones? Did you find them easier or more challenging than our first set? If you like this video, that's wonderful. Please let me know through a thumbs up. And make sure to subscribe, because up next I'm going to go through a part C for reading series where we not only take these skills, but we go into more detailed strategies trying to tackle some of those very difficult questions in part C. So make sure to subscribe so that you are notified when those videos come out.